Alright, the first thing, this is just vinyl that matches the headliner. It's just a scrap from the actual making of the headliner. And because the mice chewed through a seam, I want to see if I can match the seam on the patch. So I'm just going to sew 2 pieces together. I'm going to want to fold it back behind the headliner, so I'm going to give myself a wider seam allowance here. So hopefully that will match the seam, in the headliner itself. So I'll cut the shape of the patch out of this, but I've got to flatten the seam allowance back here so it lies flat on the patch I'm going to put in. So basically like that. I want this to be as flat as I can when it shows on this side. I'm just going to grab something and burnish that seam down. Okay, I'm just going to use E6000 on there. And fold these over. I've got to clamp those down obviously, but that's what the front of the patch will look like. Alright, there's the hole. And of course it's right on the seam. So I'm going to start by cleaning up the edges a little bit, and then I will have to put some stitches in the seam itself so it doesn't continue to rip. This is just so upsetting. Oh my god. I have to get behind there somehow to secure the patch on the back, put a little pressure on there. So maybe if I just cut straight across around like an oval here, just removing minimal material, maybe that'll work. I'm just worried when I cut this, it'll run. Well, we'll see here. And I'm sure this is probably exactly at the wrong camera angle to show you what I'm doing, because why wouldn't it be? These are just little curved embroidery scissors. Ugh, I can't even see their gross little teeth marks. Bastards. Oh god, this is just so painful. Good lord. I'm trying to get this edge as just straight and even as I can so I can make a patch that matches. Obviously I can't make a patch with frayed edges. Oh man. Oh, they chewed down the seam back here, the seam allowance. Yikes. That patch is going to have to be bigger than I thought. Darn. So this is I don't know if you can see it, the thread that I used when I made the headliner. I'm going to see if I can throw a few stitches, just start it in here on the inside of the seam allowance without taking this down. I don't know. I don't think it's going to go well, but they chewed so much of that seam allowance out of there. I don't know. It'll only take a couple of stitches. Okay, so I got both seam allowances sewn together so it can't, you know, hopefully come undone. Sorry about the bad camera angle. There's really not much room inside the car here. Okay. I think that's about as clean as I'm going to get it. Okay, this is just a piece of plastic, some painter's tape on it. I'm putting it on the back so I can trace it onto the vinyl without it showing when I make the patch, if that makes sense. I cut this just a hair smaller than my tracing because I need a gap in it to use the filler, the leather filler that I have. It's almost like Bondo, kind of. Okay, there's the tracing. And I'll just cut that out, see how it fits. That'll do it. Okay, here's the backing. I don't know if it'll focus, maybe, I don't know. All this is a heavy embroidery backing. It's kind of like a woven papery material sort of stuff, but it's really tear resistant. So it's going to go on the inside like that, which is why I had to get, you know, access to the back here so I can put some pressure on it, you know, to glue it. Just putting a light coat on the back. It seems like it's generally a good idea to put adhesive on both surfaces. You know, obviously you don't want to go nuts with it, but glue that seam allowance back there too. Get that kind of squished down. I'll just give that a few minutes to tack out before I stick the backing in there. Okay, so now I've got the little patch trimmed and whatever the best I can, and I wanted to have a little gap around it so the leather filler has a place to go, basically. Otherwise I don't think it would feather out well. It just needs a little place to fill and stick. So I think the backer is pretty well set, so I'll glue the patch. Trying to get that seam lined up. Okay, I think that's about as good as it's going to get. And once that cures, I'll get after it with the leather filler. And then I might have to color match. But I guess it's better than a ratty, well, mousy hole. I'm just gonna give it a real light wipe down with rubbing alcohol, just in case I have any, I don't know, cleaner Armor All or something on here. I don't think I do, but you never know. I probably should use acetone, but I'm afraid. Alright, now for the leather filler. This is Angelus Paintable Repair Filler for vinyl and leather. It's like basically the same color as the headliner. Ugh! Stinks. Stinks enough like it should work. Anyway, I'm just going to take a toothpick and carefully put it along the seam. I'm just trying to get this in there. I don't want it super thick. I'm going to do it in layers because that's always the best practice for anything like this, but I want to make sure it gets down inside there. Just kind of using my finger and a texturizer. See if I can kind of match that grain. And the seams meet here. It's really kind of bumpy, so it's a lot of filling here to make it natural. I think this is about as much as I should do on here right now. If this shrinks a little bit or something, the next few days I might add a little bit more, but I think at this point I'm just going to end up overworking it and maybe creating some problems. So, last little dip on there. And I think I'm just going to leave it like that. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than a hole.